This is the Griffin Realty Group Ask-A-Griffin podcast, episode number 77. We continue with our agent plan, and the question today is, are you afraid to ask for the deal? Are you a home seller or buyer who has questions about selling or buying residential property, or an agent who needs a plan, but you can't find an easy way to get your answers? Well, then, hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Griffin Realty Group and the host of the Ask-A-Griffin podcast. Now, to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction if you need to sell or buy property right now or in the near future, or you want a real estate agent plan, you can take advantage of our step-by-step guides that are waiting for you at griffincourses.com. Okay, so let's get started. The question on the table for the agents: are you afraid to ask for the deal? So the first point here when it comes to working with a buyer or seller is recognizing, being cognizant, being aware when buyers and sellers hit a sticking point. So it's always this, I hear this a lot from people that would love to get into real estate, but they're nervous about doing so because they say, I'm not that type of person. I don't even know what that means. What does that mean? I know what the perception is. It means I'm not pushy. I could never ask for the deal. And that's the essence of what it is. But if you really take the approach to this business correctly, it's the service business. It's the guidance business. If you get a good plan in the hands of a seller or a buyer and you guide them through that, you're guiding them to make decisions for themselves. You're empowering them much like a teacher would be so that the conclusion is a sale. However, I will agree, there is a point where you can't be a shrinking violet. In other words, there's a point where that guidance is you nudging them. But that's not upfront, being some sort of a bully or being pushy and all these misperceptions you have in your head. It's more so well into the deal, or when somebody's trying to list, having them believe that they can find the place that they're going to go through you, and that if they don't, there's no worries. So it's really just empowering them with the sense of control, that just because they're trusting you to help them through the process doesn't mean they lose control. And that's what scares a lot of people. But let's talk about during the fact that you might be looking for a property. And you'd be looking for quite some time. And you're doing a good job as an agent, refining the criteria, really highlighting the things beyond the home, where the lifestyle, when they take a left or right out of the property, do they have access to the amenities that they really so desire and they don't want to give up? All those things are part of the process. And then there's just that sticking point where you can sense it. You can see. And if you're cognizant and you're paying attention to the human drama that is a real estate transaction, you recognize it. And depending on your style, it's just taking pause to say, how you feeling about this whole thing? You look like you're a little bit stuck to me. Just ask. Just state it, right? Are you? You feeling okay about this? Because what that does is allow them to have their moment and say, yes, I'm really worried that this is the wrong thing. Say, look, let's reattach to why you're doing this at all. And this is one of the big things that we teach at the Griffin. We want to make sure that you're not running around with clients that you curated who don't have a real reason to do so, because then that sticking point is real. They shouldn't even be doing this at all because they don't have a real reason why. It's whimsical. They're putting themselves through stress and they're wasting your time too. So let's presume that you have asked and you found out that there's a real reason why. Let's presume that on a scale of 1 to 10, they are now a 9 to 10 while they're looking. Let's make those two presumptions because those are critical, so that the sticking point is actually something that can be pushed through, or it's not something that's going to blow up the whole scenario. So you reconnect them in those tough moments to why they're doing it so that they can get a reattachment to why. Because when they see themselves having accomplished this and being happier on the other side of the transaction, they will actually find some propulsion themselves to push. So sometimes you really helping them through that sticking point is just reconnecting them to their why, their motivation to do so, and how they will feel at the end of it. Then professionally, you might have to reassure them that the price they're about to accept on their home or the price they're about to offer for a home, as long as you've done your job as a fiduciary to show them the math that the decision they're making today in today's circumstances is reasonable, you're good to go, right? The second point here is Remember, this is somebody that you has established at least a level of trust where they're now your client. So this is a contact whose disposition was lead. You may or may know each other at the beginning, or you may not, but you still don't know why they're doing it, what their motivation is. Once that's established, they became a prospect and you set them up. Once you begin to see homes or you list their home, they're a client. So the trust at that moment is in your guidance. So they've hired you for your professional guidance. And professional guidance needs to show up in those moments where it's, again, my point is, it's easier in those moments when you've set them up correctly with education all along, reassuring them, educating them where you're at, and a good plan helps that, right? Make sure you have a good buyer or seller plan. But they're relying on you to step up to this. I heard a great line for a long time. People are silently begging to be led. And when they're in a client relationship with you, they might be silently begging to be led. Don't let them drown. You might have to learn how to ask good provocative questions so that they can read their mind aloud. That's the why question. Why are you doing this? How, on a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you? Those are great questions that provoke them to think through and answer and read their mind aloud so that you can match your guidance to what you're hearing, right? So that's important. The last point here is to just, I've already said it multiple times, but reconnecting them to their why and then give clear, actionable advice as to where you're at. So sometimes when a prospect, for example, I was having a phone conversation with a potential their prospect lights. They were interested enough in receiving our information. They were interested enough in hearing from me and what I would recommend in their situation. And I gave them actionable advice with or without me. But at the very end of the call, and this isn't even in the field, right? Writing an offer. I'm giving you another context for this why permeates the entire process so you can help them through each sticking point. So in this case, I said, why are you doing this? Now, I knew they wanted to be closer to their daughter who's 2 hours away. I already knew. But I was reconnecting them. I said, why not just stay where you are? And then out came some truth. Well, he would love to. He likes it here, but we're getting older and we can't even see our daughter. And I don't know, maybe we should consider this. So instead of just presuming and assuming, I asked again. And I said, okay, well, your homework is, now that I've provoked thought, you're going to get off with me and really think about this. Are we trying to get you there? I'm going to go look at what's sold. We're going to look at, was everything a bidding war? Would you have bought any of these? We're going to make it at least visually real on what the past gave us so that we can begin to chart a course for it. But I want you to give some thought as to why you're doing this and what lifestyle you need to get when you get there, because you have a little resistance. You like where you live. There are some modern conveniences. This is a convenient place. It's a great place. So just because there's a big why doesn't mean it's going to not meet your own resistance. That just happened right before this podcast. And it happens every week in this business, right? Reconnecting them to why they're doing it. So let me summarize it this way for all you agents or potential agents out there. Are you afraid to ask for the deal? And that means what deal, right? I mean, certainly that's obvious during almost making an offer or almost accepting one. They need a nudge at that point. They need somebody to be strong there, sure. But asking for the deal could mean asking for the next step. And that starts with these points. Number one, to recognize when buyers and sellers are actually at a sticking point and to stop, slow down, and dig in with them, help them work through it, right? That's the psychological guidance that is so necessary in this business. Two, remember that your client wants and needs your professional guidance. That's why once they become a client, they hired you. Not to just be whimsical and just hope to collect a check. And by the way, a lot of you are doing that. A lot of you are sort of just hoping that you can just show a few homes or let a few people in and miraculously this thing's going to happen. That's not why you were hired. You were hired to communicate in a guidance manner so that they can make the best decision for themselves, given them the circumstances of that market moment. And lastly, reconnect them to their why constantly. And at each stage, give them clear, actionable advice, so much easier to do when you offered them a clear plan to start. Let me summarize it this way. When real estate agents engage with buyers and sellers, They're creating a professional relationship within which the client will need straightforward advice in order to move through sticking points. Use your empathy and your care, but you must give straightforward, clear advice, I'll say it again, that helps them get the deal that fulfills their why they wanted to move in the first place. Okay, now remember, you can take immediate action to get started in the right direction if you need to sell or buy property right now or in the near future, or you're an agent who just wants some help getting organized. And you can do all of that, all of you sellers, buyers, and agents. Head over, get our free step-by-step guides at griffincourses.com. Griffin, Griffin courses.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen, or you can find us on any of our social media channels so that you don't miss out on any of the insights each time we upload an episode. We'd also appreciate it, of course, if you would share our content with anyone thinking about selling or buying property or becoming a real estate agent, or maybe they already are a real estate agent and they need some help. I want to have that shared to them so that they can get the help they need in real time. But remember this, in case you're one of those people, nobody's coming for you. Nobody. So take action and get to work on a plan for buying or selling property or becoming a successful real estate agent. And we will see you in the next episode to help you do just that. Thanks for listening.